And welcome to another edition of Defo on 5. Jeff DeForest along with Mike Lubie Lubitz, and very happy to be with you today. And should we start with the negative or just double up and go double negative at the beginning of this program here today? Defo on 5. I hate to break it to the Heat Nation, but the Heat aren't that good. I think we know that just by looking at the standings. Would that not be a fair deduction, Mike Lubie Lubitz? I know you don't like hearing this, and you're one of those fans. Like I don't know, you think the people that are followers of Five Reasons Sports Network are fans like you, more fans like you, where you hate your own team and are constantly mad at them, or do you think that there's a silent majority out there that actually just enjoys rooting for the Miami Heat and doesn't mind if their finish seems to be lackluster to a season that was lackluster to begin with? What do you think? Which is the majority?
And they're not me because whenever I put negative stuff up there, it doesn't do as well. They want to hear the positive. I think they're uh, blind faith fans, which is weird to me. I'm
Yeah,
really
there you
meant to be
go.
a Florida fan. Yeah.
Can't find my way home. Great song by Blind Faith and covered many times by other people, including if you catch Eric Clapton and Stevie Winwood's version of that song. It's absolutely dynamic. But you don't see this team going anywhere. He Knicks used to be a big deal in town, wasn't it? I mean, still ringing in my ears from years ago. Allen Houston and that hideous shot, front rim, backboard, in. He get blown out by the New York Knicks in the playoffs, and the battle continued. And I used to be able to do sports talk shows and just flip open the microphone and go, "Heat Knicks tomorrow night. What do you guys think?" And you'd be flooded with calls, about an equal number of Heat fans and Knick fans calling in, all hating on each other, as they say. And it was wild. It was great. Now, this game was a big deal in New York. As you saw, the stars were out. Chris Rock was out there, and all of the other celebrities that are typical when they do the crowd shots. Is it the same 10 celebrities that go to all Knicks games? I didn't see Spike Lee out there. He must be busy filming commercials with Charles Barkley and the boys. But nonetheless, they were making a big deal out of this because the Knick fans are all excited that they had the opportunity to cement their spot in fifth in the Eastern Conference. They're happy with that. Now, are we spoiled here? Because unfortunately, we saw the Heat slip out of that sixth spot and even further into the seventh position, which involves the play-in game, the dreaded play-in game, and whether they have home court advantage for that or not against Atlanta or whoever else they happen to play in that spot. Still, you're jeopardizing the entire season based on one game. You have a bad night, maybe Jimmy Butler has a bruised knee or something. Next thing you know, whoosh, it's sayonara. You don't even get to the first round of the playoffs, which would be somewhat catastrophic, you would have to think, considering the high hopes that a lot of people had for the Miami Heat coming into the season. I don't know that anybody saw them as a championship team, but you certainly couldn't see them as that right now. Not after last night's effort. Knicks are horrible in the first quarter last night, Luby. Horrible. Did you watch any of this ball game?
No, I kept track of it. I know that he were up in after the first, down close after the second, tied after the third, and then they forgot how to play basketball in the fourth. I didn't get to see a lot of it. And I'm very happy reading comments from people. It was like, well, this season's over. This team sucks. I can't wait for the summer. I was like,
The Heat looked lost in the fourth quarter during one spurt when the Knicks opened up 9 or 10 points. And that ended up being right around where the final margin was. Knicks, in the first quarter, they had Randall and R.J. Barrett were like 0 for 10 combined. They had 6 turnovers in the first quarter. Think about that. That equates out to like 24 for the game. They were 1 for 8 from the free throw line, so they couldn't even get anything to drop from there. And somehow they were still in a ball game. And there was every opportunity for Miami to just blow them right off the floor there and send the New York. Now, the New York fans will stay to the bitter end because they paid so much money for the seats. They can't stand the fact that it's kind of like when you're at a parking meter in New
yeah,
York City
yeah,
and you've paid a ton of money for it. And there's 20 minutes left, and you get in your car and you're thinking, I'm just going to sit in my car here and get my 20 minutes worth.
I do it here.
I'm not leaving this for the next guy.
No way.
Bleep him. He can pay for his own parking. And I'll make sure that nobody that I don't like gets his space. I'm just going to sit here until the right guy pulls up and tries to parallel park in there. But that being said, the Heat really parked it in the fourth quarter, and they parked it on reverse because they couldn't play what worth a lick. And outside of a couple of flashes from Tyler Hero in the ball game, The Heat really didn't demonstrate much. They had Duncan Robinson. There was a Duncan Robinson sighting, and he acquitted himself pretty well. Well, why is this guy on the bench? Because
I
he
know.
can't defend. He looked like he was hustling like a madman on defense. I don't know that he was effective, but nonetheless, when you watch a guy and he's absolutely all out trying, you're thinking he doesn't want to get back into Spolster's doghouse. So this was a guy, I think he's averaging like 6 points a game this year. This is a guy they gave like $500 million to not
Yeah.
that long ago. But it didn't look good. The Knicks prevailed. They now have the Heat in a precarious position because they're a game and a half behind Brooklyn, who won last night. They took on the Rockets, the Brooklyn Nets. So the Heat now in seventh position in the standings. And the Brooklyn Nets have one more game to play than the Heat do. I think the Heat have seven left in the season, and that's it. No, they might have even less than that. I
I
think the
think
Heat have
that's
like
five,
five games left.
five left.
Yeah,
Five.
five left in the season. So Brooklyn has six, and the Heat are a game and a half back of the sixth position in the Eastern Conference, a position that you probably didn't foresee them having to deal with at the beginning of the season. And the problem is they're going to have to deal with this at the end of the season. And I don't know what would help them make a quantum leap forward. Everybody was speculating, well, you know what, they get Durant, they do this, they do that. None of that's happening right now. So, it just looks like, unfortunately, there's nothing worse than stagnation, is there, in
Yep.
sports?
Yep.
Unless you're stagnating at the top. But this doesn't look really encouraging for the Miami Heat. And that was a poor effort last night in the fourth quarter. After it looked like the Knicks did everything that they really did. They were serving little knishes like hors d'oeuvres on a silver platter, and the Heat were incapable of taking advantage. So that was ugly. Now, equally ugly, and think about this. You know what the best kept secret in town is, Lubie?
Oh, good. No clue.
Today is opening day for the Miami
It's
Marlins.
probably opening day, but we talked about that yesterday, so I don't know if that's still a secret.
It's a secret. It's such a secret that I went online, and if I wanted to go to opening day today, you could buy tickets for this game, albeit lousy ones. But you could buy tickets for this game for $8 online.
Oh no, for opening day.
$8 a copy for
Opening
opening
today.
day. Scherzer versus Alcantara,
Oh
our
my
Cy Young Award winner, 4:10 in the afternoon, a perfect time to get down there to Lone Shark Park. You don't have to worry about traffic if you're coming from Broward. I'm driving from Palm Beach with my son, and I can't even get to the game.
oh
We
my
know all the Michigan arguments against going to ball games here, and that's fine. We're not the kind of sportscasters that are going to tell you, "Oh man, if you don't go to a game, you're not a fan."
nah, I don't go to
But there is no interest in this. I don't think this didn't just creep up on everybody because we have two teams in the Final Four. If you're a baseball fan, you couldn't be any more excited. I mean, if you were ever going to be able to go ahead and get a little bit of a woody about something happening in the world of sports, this would be it. I don't care how old you are. You would think even if they filled the stadium with old geezers from John Knox Village, it would be something. But with the Mets in town, and Mike Mayer was telling us this yesterday, the Mets were actually the team that was having the pep rally at the Hard Rock Casino and Hotel. They had like Ed Kranepool and
Mookie Bat.
Tommy Agee, if he was alive, would have been there. Casey
Mookie-
Stengel.
Mookie
They
Betts.
had like coffins of ex Mets on display by the pool. It was incredible. Hey, yeah, there's number 37. I tell you what, I really like Casey. I didn't understand what he was saying. But I was just looking at a poster that I have kind of laying flat here in the room that I'm broadcasting from. And it's the original Miami Marlins. Well, it was the Florida Marlins then. 93 opening day poster
Yep.
that I got on opening day in
My
93.
parents still have that in my old room. Yep.
I have it in a frame here. It's kind of dilapidated a little bit, but nonetheless. And I'm thinking, what a difference, huh? That opening day was fantastic. I mean, we couldn't have been any more excited in town. And here we are 30 years later, and nobody gives a shit. It's just incredible that things have fallen apart to that level. Alcantara versus Scherzer, Mets in town, $8 a copy for a ticket if you want to go to the game today. I would imagine that'll drop down to like 5 by game time. What could the face value have been on those tickets? What do you think?
Opening day. Like that's
That's pretty incredible. You should not be able to get anywhere near that stadium today. And you would think the festivities would be such that it would so overwhelm anything else that was happening in town that you would be able to forget for a day anyway that we have two teams in the Final Four in the NCAA tournament. But shocking lack of interest in the Miami Marlins. They made some cosmetic moves as we talked about with Dave Hyde, And he deemed them cosmetic, as did we. That you can't win in the majors anymore without some kind of power stick in your lineup, maybe more than one. You're better off with a Kyle Schwarber than you are with the guy Arraez, who's nobody knows what his actual name is, who we got from the Twins, who led the American League in hitting last year, robbing Aaron Judge of a triple crown by going ahead. He actually had a hot week the last week while Judge was chasing the home run mark, and had some lousy at bats. Final week of the season. Otherwise, Aaron Judge wins a triple crown last year,
Yeah.
and you could not have had a better contract year than Aaron Judge did a year ago for the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
All the teams are in action today. All 30 major league teams.
Yes.
Aces abounding all over the board here. Should be a very exciting day, but very much in the background today. The Miami Marlins getting a season underway as they start the beginning of a 162 game ride that also could be deemed a 162 game slide.
Yeah, I was gonna say fall.
Going to be some serious ugliness. The Florida Panthers won last night. That was a good thing. That's another thing that's going unnoticed, but they crept within a point of a playoff spot. However, Pittsburgh has a game in hand. They're one behind the Penguins. I did not see that being the race that they would have to decide at the end of the season either. So another bitter disappointment. But this is unfortunate, huh? I want to go out and maybe just jump off the Dania Pier after thinking about the beginning of this program here. And yet, this is one of the great weeks in the history of South Florida sports
Yes,
with the University of Miami already on in Houston, and FAU going in the Final Four. I did look at a little survey, Lubie, and this one. We love rankings and surveys and things like that, and trying to decide debates about who's the greatest of all time. All of these sports topics that really have no answer to them. But this one was ranking 1 through 20, the five starters for each team in the Final Four. 1 through 20. They took the whole list of starters for the four teams that are left in the tournament and ranked the top players. They had two UConn guys at 1 and 2. In this case, they had Jordan Hawkins, who's capable, I guess, of dropping 30 on anybody on any given night. Not that familiar with him. And Sonogo, the big man for
big.
the University of Connecticut. Obviously, going to be a challenge for O'Meara and company to keep off the boards there and contain. But they had them 1-2. But at number 3 was Isaiah Wong, and at number 5 was Jordan Miller. Of the 20 guys that are
Yeah.
starters, the getting some fair representation. John L. Davis of FAU was the fourth ranked player by this particular writer who went ahead and did the survey. But if you're thinking about that, both of these teams are underdogs. FAU is a 2-point dog. I think it dropped to 1.5. A lot of people coming in with some FAU steam, and the Hurricanes remain 5.5-point dogs to the University of Connecticut, the team that just about everybody thinks is going to run away and hide in this Final Four tournament. And you have to lay a price to take the University of Connecticut to win it all. And that seems fair, right? Connecticut. That you made a pretty interesting case for UConn maybe being a little overrated in this game against the University of Miami because much of the steam on the University of Connecticut is being based on their slaughtering of Gonzaga
Yeah.
in the Elite Eight. Gonzaga was starting to gather some momentum, at least among critics and handicappers, and they're saying, "Yeah, okay, this is the year. There's no pressure on them." But it doesn't matter if there's no pressure on them because
This is what they do. Yeah. It's what
they
they
were going to choke anyway. Does Mark Few go to his grave thinking that he was a failure? Couldn't possibly do that. No, I mean the guys had great. What is Gonzaga? Gonzaga's a schlep team that used to be on the GE College Bowl. That's the only way we knew anything about them. You were
right.
too young to even remember this show. It was like a kind of a quiz show where they would have different schools represented by their three smartest guys, and they all went up there and tried to answer questions, and it was like Gonzaga versus Harvard versus Yale, and they would acquit themselves very well, but you never saw them as a basketball power. And yet, I mean, it is possible. I don't know if FAU could sustain this. What we said this yesterday, that FAU somehow could become the Gonzaga of the Southeast, geographically diametrically opposed. Is that possible, or do you see FAU just getting rated for their players that are eligible for next year in the transfer portal? Name, image, and likeness, as we were talking about. Don't you think Calipari comes literally with like the dead body of Colonel Sanders and offers John L. Davis a chance to come to Kentucky, play for them for 1 year. They're the capital of one and done. And the next thing you know, John L. Davis has two Kentucky Fried Chicken franchises somewhere outside of Lexington. No?
I'm actually very curious what happens with FAU going forward. I feel like Dusty May is the exact coach you want going into a bigger conference. I just don't know if he's going to be here. I think a lot of it comes down to if you can keep Dusty May happy here.
That was interesting, too. We had Brian White, the AD, and I didn't realize how illustrious a career that Brian White was a part of. I mean, his whole family was in the athletic director business, including his father, who was AD at both Notre Dame and Duke. Two pretty prominent places to be an athletic director with big time programs. Notre Dame, of course, in football, Duke in basketball. And Brian White, a very delightful fellow, by the way. If you catch that interview, it's on South Florida Live, the Defo show. And kind of surprising to me because we went into the interview having no idea who this guy was, thinking, hey, you're going to throw us the AD? How about the coach? That's the story.
Exactly.
And yet, as Tony Segreto pointed out to us, the great Tony Segreto, he may be in more hot demand as an AD than even Dusty May is as a coach.
Yeah.
Which, think about it. There was a lot of maneuvering yesterday on sort of a second tier level of college basketball coaches. There were more jobs available along the Division I highway than we would have thought, Louis. Because there were 3 or 4 different maneuvers that were made yesterday involving guys that I'm not that familiar with. But I think Cal hired a new coach and a couple of other schools. Did the Penn State guy leave for another job and Penn State's job is open?
Yes. And USF hired a guy. I don't even know USF
Yeah.
opening.
So Dusty May would have been very much in play. You would have to think this guy could have written his own ticket and may still do so after this year. But Brian White was confident. It seemed like that this whole thing was going to stay together for another year or so. Maybe he's the one who goes.
It'll be interesting to see if they can keep both of those guys because if they can, they're moving into a bigger conference. I mean, AAC is that considered the sixth, the power 6 in college basketball. So you can compete. I mean, and there's definitely money down here, and there's definitely plenty of alums. FAU isn't a big school, but it's been around long enough where a lot of South Floridians went there, and they just didn't root for them because they didn't exist. So it could be interesting. I know they're going to be Gonzaga, but I don't see why you couldn't compete year in, year out.
Aerial shots of the beach, pictures of hot babes at bars. What do you think?
South Florida.
Easy way to sell the program. That's for sure. All right, we have to run. That's Defo on 5 here on 5 Reasons Sports Network. Sorry, people. We probably just peed on your parade. It's awful. I used to think, and we've contended this for years, that the worst job in all of sports is a teaser horse on a stud farm. The horse that gets in there to get the female all lathered up before they go in and, do it with Stormcat. And this horse gets nothing. Once in a while, they feed him like a goat, and that's it. Guy goes on some kind of mutant sexual trip. Not really the greatest position to be in, but I would think maybe worse than even being a scalper at a Panther game. A ticket scalper at a Marlin game would have to be the worst job in all of sports, no?
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, it's not good.
Unless it's a guy selling arepas and Fanta orange sodas at that corner there by the gas station, the Shell station, where you can park. No blackie, for $10. All right, we'll see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow on Defo on 5. Catch us on South Florida Live later on. Have the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge coming up, and also Glenn Geffner, the former play-by-play announcer for the Miami Marlins. They dumped him, and how come the cost-measuring maneuvers are always like the hitting coach and the radio guy? What they're going to save? What $8 by firing Geffner? I'm sure he was making a reasonable salary, but all the more reason to go ahead and work for free if you're in that business and you love it so much. Because how bad is that? They fired the mascot at one point to get like a cheaper version of the mascot, and now they took Geffner out of the rotation there as one of the play-by-play guys, even though people love this guy. In a cost-cutting measure, another maneuver to try and save money somewhere while they're not spending the money out there to put a reasonable team on the field. All right, see you next time on Defo on 5 for Mike Lubie Lubitz. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.